Hello, everybody. Sheryl and I are here together to give you something very new and wonderful for this moon cycle. It's something we'll be doing for each new moon at the beginning of each cycle, is giving you a very rapid and dangerously awakening galactic guidance summary of the astrology. So we're going to give a summary of the new moon, the spring equinox, and the full moon. And of course, if you want deeper dives, please do join me for my moon ceremonies and join us for our very special first time ever spring equinox event happening on March 20th in the afternoon, 1 to 3 p.m. Mountain Standard, 3 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have such a good time, and we're going to really deep dive into all of the cosmic magic happening both in the stars and with our cards, and it'll be so much fun. We'll all come together in a really beautiful way. So let's get right into it. Sheryl is my amazing friend. If you don't know her, she's my amazing friend. We built her beautiful brand last year, Guarniero.com. She's the founder of Green Her Consulting, which makes sustainability holistic for businesses so that they're focused on the 4 elements of prosperity, which is very exciting and something we will be speaking about a lot more. And she's also the founder of Burkano Retreats. The first one will be in Sedona, and her and I will be co-leading that retreat. It's for conscious leaders who want to run sustainable businesses, but want to reconnect to the earth, because that's really who we're collaborating with. I'm so happy that we're together. I'm so happy we're doing this cosmic work together. Let's get into our galactic guidance. All right. Absolutely. So first of all, we're going to start off with this new moon in Pisces, but it also technically is a new moon in Aquarius, because that's based on Eastern astrology or sidereal astrology. And literally, if you were to look up in your sky apps or your constellation apps on your phone, you would see that the moon is in the constellation of Aquarius right now. I just posted that on my Instagram story today. So if we look at this astrology, we can see that there's this big constellation of Aquarius and Pisces energy. And we both have the moon, the sun, Neptune, and Venus in Pisces, all in the second house. So a lot of Pisces energy, lots of big, dreamy, deep, very deeply emotional. And in the second house, that makes it even more solid. It's like, what do you need for stability and comfort is what's really coming in. Like, what do you need to dream up and create next and become aware of so that you can have greater stability and comfort in your life? And then, we've still got all of those big major planets in Aquarius, Jupiter in Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius, and then like Pluto slowly trudging through Capricorn to get over to Aquarius. Of course, all of that is very different if we were to look at it from an Eastern perspective. We don't even have any of those planets in Aquarius. They're still in Capricorn. So I heard another astrologer this week tell me that it's like we're in a collective Saturn return, and we literally are. We pretty much literally are, because if I was just to switch this up and put it on sidereal based on the fixed stars, based on where the constellations actually are, boom, all of these planets are actually in Capricorn. And we actually have a bunch of Aquarius energy. It's very cuspy to Pisces, but it's still in Aquarius. We still have that Aquarius, Neptune, Sun, Moon, and Venus. So based on all of this, like, what's your interpretation of it, Sheryl? And how are you kind of experiencing the astrology of right now?
Oh, goodness. I feel exactly, the difference. It's funny because I couldn't put my finger on it until you and I had the conversation about the difference between the sidereal and the tropical, like the standard Eastern versus Western astrology, where one is set to or kind of calibrated to the equinoxes versus calibrated to actual constellations and where they're fixed in the sky. And so for me, it's been this push and pull of like, that very much Capricorn Saturn returns kind of feeling and energy of like, there's a lot of new things happening and changes happening and phases happening. And it's a little bit more abrupt, and it is very much in that Capricorn energy, but there is this fluid feeling, almost like this, a little more softness to it than last year. And that I feel like is very much coming from that Aquarian space, because right now, they're all kind of shifting back and, regardless of which style, whether it's one or the other, eventually in the sidereal, it will shift over to Aquarius because that's the direction that everything's moving. It's just taking a bit longer, but I feel like that I can feel almost like a transition starting to happen. And last year was absolutely that very Capricorn returns, especially with the stellium that we had going on most of the year. And a lot of the a lot of the crazy astrology that went down last year. That was literally, you know, I remember you and I talking, and I remember saying, like, people who don't follow astrology are like kind of confused about what's happening, and it seems very surprising to them. But when you really looked at what these planets were doing last year, none of this was a surprise. What happened, you know, the planets don't say, well, this is going to happen. There's going to be a capital insurrection, or, you know, any of this political craziness that went on last year for us here in the US, and then the coronavirus craziness around the globe. It wasn't like this virus is going to show up and all this stuff's going to happen. It was like these big events that something was going to happen to shift and move. And I think at one point we had 2 new moons in the same month under the same sign.
Well, that's when the moons all shifted.
Yeah. And so it's very much that transitional energy is what I'm feeling right now. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's balanced itself out in a way because there's not all that very heavy Capricorn energy, which revolves around like big systems and patriarchal energy in that sense. It's definitely softened, and I can feel the feminine. This might sound cliche, but I can feel the feminine rising, the energy rising, and to come balance what has been unbalanced for so long. That's
100% what's happening. And really, I could talk about this a lot, and I will, but really our astrology, our Western astrology, tropical astrology, you know, if we were to switch this back, this is where we have Aquarius energy coming in, and we have all this Pisces energy, which is much more new, much more innovative, much more feminine energy, right? However, like what we were experiencing, what like us as astrologers tuned into what was going on last year, we're experiencing is pretty much actually happening right now in the actual sky, but it's not as intense as we experienced it. So it's almost like, you know, Western astrology is pretty much predictive. It's predicting like what's going to happen in 22 degrees from now. And for some planets, that's like literally just in a few weeks. And for other planets, it's years and years from now, especially Pluto, because it takes so long for it to revolve. And so essentially, what's happening right now is like, for those of us that were tuned into the astrology last year, we've already experienced what the greater collective is now experiencing, right? Like if you want to call it 3D, if you want to call it more grounded, if you want to call it more practical, more like, it's like literally what is happening. But there's also still a lot of us tuned into the Western astrology of what's still to come. And what's to come is more Aquarius energy, more Pisces energy, more of that divine feminine. And also the change in the fundamental structures, because Uranus and Taurus are there. So that's like change to our DNA, to who we are as people, to how we live our lives, how we make our money. And in Eastern astrology, Uranus is in Aries, which is literally an indication of transformation of the masculine, right? It's not just the feminine rising, it's also the divine masculine rising, which is really Aquarius energy at its highest expression, and also Aries energy at its highest expression, and also Capricorn energy at its highest expression is divine masculine energy. And then there's also beyond polarity, right? There's non-duality that we're working with, that also is really what Pisces is talking to us about. So that's what we start this season off with, is like, whoa, we're really in this transition period. And then we have a peak with the spring equinox, like this new transition phase. It's like, oh, this new phase is starting, a new astrological year is starting. Here's the spring equinox, and look at how much more harmony is happening in this chart compared to the last one, right? This one is like a bunch of sextiles, tons of trines, and there are still squares happening, but I like to say that squares are necessary conflict. So what we have going on March 20th, 2021, when we have our beautiful spring equinox event, is tons of Gemini energy, Gemini Mars, Gemini North Node, Gemini Rise, Gemini Moon. And then we still have lots more Pisces energy, because we have, do we have a stellium? Yeah, we're going to have a Pisces Aries stellium. That's fascinating. So Venus, Neptune, Sun, and Chiron are going to be having a stellium, having a little time. Pisces energy, Pisces to Aries energy is always fascinating. This is literally what's going to be happening during that equinox, is we're switching from the ancient wise Pisces into the new energy of Aries, right? So it's that new spring within us. What's your interpretation of this energy, like all this Gemini over here and this beautiful, Pisces energy, Pisces Aries transition that we're moving through?
I'm very much feeling like, so the Gemini, because it's the twins, it's this like, it always gives me this very yin yang kind of feeling, and this balance. And really that's what it feels like it's stepping into, is we're stepping back into balance. And there might be a little bit of upheaval to get there, because we're on our way there. But that's where that Pisces Aries, because the Pisces is that older, more gentle type of feeling of energy, whereas Aries is that very like, bah. And a lot of people think of like Aries is known, it's like it's a more aggressive energy, and they always think of like conflict and war, and that's not, and very Mars kind of energy. And for me this time around, it's not this masculine conflict war, it's this power. It's this, essentially, it's like Aries is scooping up Pisces, that feminine Pisces energy, and going, here's my power. Let me support you. Let me help you step into your power. You go ahead and take this energy from me and use it to create power in the way that you need it. So it's really helping fuel that desire and fuel that motivation to create these changes that require, so that we have this balance. And we're getting this balance back in our lives and our internal, our close communities, our larger communities, and even as like a collective scale as well. That's a big kind of feel that I love this little basket. Like it makes a much neater, more like held vessel, the chart itself, versus
literally a bowl shape.
Yeah.
It's literally a bowl-shaped chart, right? It's like, hey, we've collected all of this knowledge. This last year of living with coronavirus globally, going through a global experience, has given everyone, more emotional intelligence, which is what Pisces is, more understanding of ourselves and others. And then from all of that knowledge, we get to gift it to the world. We get to hold ourselves in a different way. And if you go and listen to our oracle reading, the vessel and self-containment and boundaries was a major theme of what we were talking about. And also, this Gemini energy is happening in the 12th house, which is really like greater communication based on what humanity needs and what our own humanity needs, right? What would be the most emotionally intelligent way to communicate? That's what's starting to come around. And all of this Pisces energy is in the 10th house. So massive transformations, dreams coming true in our careers, and what we're known for, and how we get to shift our own careers and the ways that we make money, or even the way that our economy looks overall, is going to start being a theme, and something that people are going to start thinking about a lot with this spring equinox. Now, we don't have a ton more time because YouTube only lets you do 15 minutes. So let's just jump into, let's just jump into the Libra full moon. Again, that balance is coming out with a Libra full moon, but of course in Eastern astrology, it's actually going to be a Virgo full moon. So we have this Libra full moon opposing the sun in Aries. We're also going to have Venus in Aries at that time. So, Venus, like you were just saying it, masculine, feminine balance, Aries and Libra balance. Right. And Libra in the 4th house is deeply balancing, deeply nurturing. So this full moon is really going to bring about the balance that we all need in order to feel nurtured, in order to feel safe in our relationships and within ourselves. Right. A lot of us have been feeling unsafe this past year. And so now we get to feel more safe. Anything else you want to add around this full moon, especially with it being also in Virgo? Let's look at that. So it's going to be Virgo opposing Pisces. So it's going to be like, what new routines, what new structures that we need to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of the collective and our greater communities and our careers and our society and our economy, et cetera, is going to be the theme. Anything else you want to add to that before we sign off?
No, I think that's very, very beautifully put. I think that there's going to be it's a very feminine strength is like the energy that's coming along with the next full moon, whether it's, Libra or Virgo, and the strength, Aries kind of handing us this. It's like saying, here, take my strength, take my power, take my passion, and use it. And it's very much that feminine strength is what I'm getting on, you know, from all of this.
That's Shakti, everybody. I mean, that's what I'm about. It's what we're all here for, is feminine power, the power to create, the power to create anew. And that's what this new moon cycle has in store for you, astrologically, individually, and collectively. Sheryl and I really hope that you've enjoyed this. Please join us for our Spring Equinox event. The link is in our bios or here below in the YouTube area. Follow us on Instagram, reach out to us, let us know what you got from this. We're sending you all of our love. Bye-bye.
Beautiful.